Yo, 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 what is going on, IK Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. We are back again for continuing our most used ToK skill series here in Infinity Kingdom, keeping it pushing on the regular with Lightning. Number 2 Immortal we got coming up is going to be Richard the First, and we're going to be showing you guys again, breaking it down with our 45 data pools for the most used ToK skills from the players, or from the first 45 players that we had. As always, going off of our 160k troop power minimum threshold, remembering that players have to be maining Lightning in their primary march, where it has to be 3 minimum Lightning Immortals plus the Dragon, only allowing for a small margin of error with 1 flex pick. If they do, even though the majority of them are running all, Lightning Immortals in the marches, I always like to just let people know what the parameters are for how we pull data and exactly what we're putting on this spreadsheet for when we end up doing our most used ToK skills here at the, well, I guess in a moment. So as we get into it, we actually got 4 skills for you today. Thankfully with Richard, we were able to pull at least 45 player data points for this, spanning from S1 all the way to S27. You can notice some of the servers here, right? S8 having a few, S13 having about the same, S11 coming in with a decent amount, right? S5, S7 having a few Lightning marches of their own. Kind of interesting when you look at the march spreads, depending on which servers are running them versus not. Now let's get into it. Okay, the number 4 most used ToK skill on Richard the First right now is Energy Suppression, being used 11 times, so about 25% that we're seeing there, we're a quarter. Number 3, Resist, getting a little bit higher there in percentage. Number 2 is going to be Lifelink, coming in at 13 times, right? We're getting a little bit more, about a third. And then for the final number 1 most used ToK skill, Shelter. Now the interesting thing here about Richard is that we're seeing a lot of the support skills coming in pretty close in range. 11 to 14 is only a +3 differential, or a 3 differential plus or minus, compared to some of the other Immortals that we've seen with higher spreads. Now let's go ahead for the next Shabooyaboo part, which is we're going to take a look at Richard himself, and then we'll talk about the 3 skills along with breaking down Richard and his usage. Okay, Richard's primary is Heaven's Wrath. Inflicts physical damage on enemy targets within a certain range. This is a damage rate of 51% up to 170, and has a 40% chance of stunning them. Now this is at max, right? Of stunning them so they cannot move or recover energy for 4 seconds. Again, I like the skill, along with the fact that it is focused on physical damage. Now let's look at where Richard is on his stat-wise. So Strength 175, Intelligence 138. Again, keep in mind these are a little inflated just because of the fact that we do have some buffs on them. But you can see here, right, that he excels extremely well in physical defense, right, on his stats. You can make an argument for Richard, right, is kind of almost in a sense like what you would see with Charles the Great's skill by being super heavy on absorb and defense, by giving himself even an additional boost, which is why we see things like Lifelink being a little bit more favored on someone like a Charles and others, right, that have high physical defense. So in this case, right, Richard, his highest stat is physical defense, right? Even Magic Attack outbeats his physical attack just by a little bit, but then you have the big fall off there with magical defense. Okay, now let's take a look at the top 3 ToK skills here. Again, we will start with Resist, which is my nice little spiral sphere. Okay, during battle, 3 of your random allied troops will receive negative 15% magical damage for 18 seconds. This goes up to 50%. So 3 of your random allied troops will receive negative. Well, I guess it's technically reduced, right? It does say reduced magical damage taken. Probably should have led with that first, as it's worded a lot better than just saying negative, right? So you're going to take less, you're going to take 50%, up to 50% less magical damage for 18 seconds, right? 3 of your random allied troops will. Okay, so again, more, I would just consider that to be more of a universal skill. Not necessarily something that you're using as a buff, so to speak, onto Richard. Now, you might use that as a counter skill, depending on some of the Element Immortal matchups that you face, but I think overall, that's actually a pretty decent universal skill that can be used. Now, Lifelink, we'll get into, which is pretty standard. have to always remember it's one of the few ones you can get there with Cleave at 31. Okay. Every 6 seconds after the battle starts has a 50% chance of creating a lifelink with 2 enemy units. They will share your received damage of 15 up to 50% for 6 seconds, right? So that's every 6 seconds after the battle starts. There's a 50% chance, right? And that'll last for 6 seconds. So again, right, 50% chance of creating a lifelink between the two. They will share your received damage. I think this makes a lot of sense with again, in the Lightning lineup, Richard arguably going to be one of the more tanky, if not the tanky of the two Lightning elements that you're going to run. And we can even see, gosh, I have to always remember the other front line because my mind wanders here. So we're looking at Peter. Okay, so keeping in mind here that Peter, I don't know if I have Peter yet. So see, I don't have him equipped all the way up. And then even though there is one more star level, there's 5 levels down on Richard. But you can see Richard here, 876 defense. You can look at Peter here, 790. So again, there's probably a couple areas that I can still buff Richard in, right, to increase the physical defense. Again, right, with Peter, he actually has great magic defense and physical defense, despite being that much of a difference. It might actually be more beneficial to run lifelink on Peter. Let me read this again. It's so interesting when I do these deep dives, you like figure these things out, right? So they will share your received damage. Yeah, I'll be honest, I actually think Peter would benefit a little bit more. We'll have to see what he looks like, and that's one of the big things is looking at vanilla stats, right? When you eventually get your immortals to level 40, right, you take off all the equipment, you have them boosted to boost 20, and then you can see exactly what some of those vanilla stats are across the board before you add on things like equipment. And that should give you just a little bit better of an indication. But so far, Peter might be a little better. Again, I understand why you would run something like a lifelink on Richard as well, if maybe you have other stats that are other skills that are just being better utilized on Peter, as far as when we're just comparing the front lines. But again, I think lifelink is okay, given that Richard does have a higher physical defense stat. It does make sense. It's not like he's super squishy, given that we see a lot more physical damage being outputted than magic for the most part. Okay, last one is going to be Shelter. In Shelter, this is, I got to remember, here we go. I actually clicked on the right one. Protects all units on the same side within range with a 50% chance of restoring HP. The recovery rate is 12% up to 40% if they sustain damage. Each immortal can only equip one aura skill as this is. So you're protecting all units on the same side within a range with a 50% chance of restoring HP if they sustain damage, right? So again, not that, but I know we've debated the whole like same side argument. I still have to get an answer from that, but you know, my assumption on same side is right. It could possibly mean the same row. I think that might be a little closer to same side, or if it's the same side as the immortal next to you and then behind you, right? So if it goes 1-on-1 on the row and column, meaning that it would protect you +2, but not the one that's at the opposite corner of you, right? So if you have Richard at front left, that means that it wouldn't be back right, but it would be front right and then back left, right? That you be protected. But it could also just mean same side as in the same row, viewing it as the two rows being one side or the other. Again, if someone does know the answer to that, though, at least until we're able to get a hard answer, please feel free to let me know in those comments down below. I think no matter what, right, again, this is a good skill. It is something that is more of a universal skill, not really something specific to Richard or his primary skill usage, along with kind of favoring any of his stats. But again, I still think it makes sense, right? These are a lot of these skills, like like the Berserks, the Cleave, the Shelters, the Lifelinks, right? These are pretty consistent. We see these on a lot of immortals being used as universals. Energy suppression being another one. So again, interesting to see. Now let me know, as always, guys, what do you think? Right? Do you like these top 3 immortal skills that we're seeing used for Richard? Do you favor other ones for him specifically? Let me know any and all of that down in those comments below. And as always, make sure you guys sub, hit that like button before you leave, and make sure you ring that notification bell to get updates on when we have new content coming out. That's it for us. Until tomorrow, hopefully, if not Monday at the latest, we will catch y'all later.